Well, welcome back. And every time we go on a short break, I always say we'll go on a break just now, but we've obviously been sitting with the lion, with a number of people still staying with us. And maybe just to remind you as well, guys, this is the last drive for Big Cat Week. And as I said the other day, let Nat.Geo Wild know if you're having a good time, because we'd like to do more of this with you. And I'm sure you would like to have more safaris with us. But also a reminder that this does go on. So for tomorrow and the next day and next week, also for all your kids that are enjoying the wildlife out here, Wild Safari Live, wildsafariLive.com. That's with Nat.Geo Wild, and you can mornings and afternoons Central African time. So keep that in mind. In the meantime, this lion's belly is full. He's not going to be doing too much. I think he's going to take a short rest. But just while we're sitting here, always a great time to have some questions and, more importantly, really discussions, having a talk with each other. And Camille and John, I know there were various people asking this. Don't lions mind eating rotten food like that? Now, as I said earlier, some of the weirdest things I've seen them eat weren't necessarily in what the things they were eating, but the aspects or the parts of it they were eating. I've seen lions on an elephant carcass, a little bit longer actually, but 2 weeks give or take, into the carcass in summer. Now, I don't even want to begin to describe to you. Luckily, there's a PG rating to this program, but I'm not going to describe to you what that smells like. An elephant carcass, middle of summer, in the heat, in the damp, and the humidity of summer is something that is almost impossible to describe in terms of the smell. And yet lions eat away happily at that. Let's just say what comes out later smells like they were eating rotten meat. But the short answer, no, it doesn't affect them. Their stomachs can cope with it. They're designed like that. And speaking of stomachs, that's a stomach I was going to say any trucker would be proud of, but I don't know if I'll say that. That's a full lion. Got back in the vehicle with us. We did have the sunlight coming through. At the moment, we've got a cloud blocking the light again, but it is late afternoon now. We're looking at about half an hour, no, actually an hour or so to take a rest. Cheryl, just a quick question there. You were asking how far travel. They're willing to travel far if need be. Obviously, food in the end is one of the most important resources for anyone to survive. But they will travel within their areas or within the territories that they hold down. Males and females live in certain areas because of other populations, sort of, next door neighbors that they've got to respect as well. So they will move around within their territory. In the case of this male, as I said earlier in the drive, he's part of 5 male coalition. So there's 4 other lions, brothers and cousins, that are part of his group, and they dominate quite a large area with more than one female pride within it. In fact, 2 of the males at the moment are much further southeast of here, too far for us to be able to get there at all, but they are with some of the females from the Styx pride, one of the prides we see around here. So those of you that joined us for the early shows in Big Cat Week would have seen some highlights on those prides. So they move around a lot, but they move around also for territorial, roaring and scent marking and boundary displays. And one of the things we're hoping for is after the rain we had this morning is that as we get closer to sunset, more territorial animals will start scent marking in. Whether it's lion or leopard, they need to sort of assert themselves by vocalizing, roaring in the case of lions, but also barely that big. But for now, Brent on the other vehicle, he's got some interesting little characters for you. Enjoy them. One of my favorites in the bush. We'll see you back here just now.
Welcome back, everyone, and we're just examining this acacia tree with massive long thorns as long as my fingers. You don't want to get tangled up in one of these. And there's a lot of life on this tree. There's a bright green beetle over here that I'd like to show you guys. Incredibly beautiful coloration. There it is. Oh, seems a little bit camera shy, and it was hiding behind the thorn there. I've just coaxed it out for you. Some incredible specimens out here in Africa. And again, it's not just the big stars of the show, but all the critters, even the small ones. There were some cocktail ants that were feeding on a larvae of a bug that actually nests within the thorns of these trees. And some of the thorns you may notice are slightly larger or bulging at their bases than the others, and those are because they've been attacked by insects who've laid eggs inside the thorn and irritated the plant to a degree that it's had to bulge out with growth hormones, and by bulging out like that it creates a home for whichever insect lays its egg within that thorn. Very clever animals out here. Now, speaking of young animals and growing up, well, let's actually just shoot you up into the sky and you can enjoy a view of the clouds from above that are rolling in from the west. There is certainly some storms approaching, and we are desperate for rain out here in the northeastern corner of South Africa. We're experiencing a drought at the moment, and we certainly hope that these clouds bring us some moisture. You would have noticed the water holes are very, very dry, and the herbivores out here are hoping, along with us, that these clouds bring some much needed moisture. Now we have found something interesting, and it's a bird's nest. So another example of how animals use the trees as nesting sites. This isn't the most elaborate of nests, and it isn't in the best spot, I don't think. It's very, very low off the ground, probably chest height, and a very rudimentary nest in terms of how it's been built, just a few twigs intertwined. In all likelihood, a dove of some sorts. They are not the most sophisticated of architects when it comes to building their nests, not like the weaver birds or some of the birds that nest in cavities in trees. This is the most basic of nests, and sadly we've seen quite a few so far this season, but most of them have not been successful in stormy weather. The eggs tend to blow out, or I guess a lot of them get eaten. There's a specific snake out here called an egg eater which focuses on feeding on eggs, and we saw one of them not too long ago. And like I said a little bit earlier, after the moisture we got this morning, there is a good chance there may be some snakes slithering about. We tend to find that snakes do become active after rainy weather. And now, Flying Lions just asked an interesting question regarding my footwear, and saying that sandals probably are not the cleverest of footwear for being out on a bushwalk. And to be honest, you probably aren't entirely incorrect, but in the African heat, I think it's necessary to keep cool and keep comfortable, and that's why I've decided to wear them and rather just keep a close eye on where I'm walking. And we're going to send you across in the Dome to the tent to see some interesting skull with Hayden.
James, we're live. Sorry. Yes, lions. Just because we saw...
Sorry about that, everyone.
We saw that fantastic close-up of those lions eating. We thought we'd come back to the lion's skull and jaw, mate. Hey, you've got a great question from somebody.
Yes, from Gail in Rhode Island. You wanted to know where these teeth go when the lion's mouth is shut. Gail, there are no holes in the skull. You can see that very clearly there, that the teeth just kind of fall on either side, exactly like if you've got a house cat or a dog, a domestic dog at home. They fall either side of the jaw, just like they would in that dog, and then they're just covered up by the lips. So obviously a skull doesn't have lips anymore, and the lips, bottom and top, will cover where the teeth go.
So in some of those close-ups that we saw, James, there was beautiful shot of that lion using these very tightly packed incisors here to strip the teeth, the meat back. He would use these teeth to use, they're his killing teeth, they're the weapon. And then these teeth up the back here. We've touched on this before, but come and have a close look at these. These are very teeth. This one here, this is the lower molar and the upper premolar. This one just here. So those join together, and when they join together they make the most incredible shearing action. Shear that meat off and allow the animal to feed. Of a lion, and it's about 600 to 700 pounds per square inch. So 600 to 700 psi, and it's about half that of a hyena.
And your tire, just to give you an idea, Yeah, I mean, it's probably a little bit difficult for you to understand what a 600 pounds per square inch means. Pressure for me, I always think about pumping my bicycle tire. And you'll go up to...
What's in your car tire? That's the bite of a lion.
So you don't want to be found in a position like this with your head in between the jaws of a lion.
No.
I just wanted to see what it felt like. It doesn't feel good. It's really not pleasant at all.
It's my turn next.
Yeah.
Right, back to the lion.
Well, what a way to understand and appreciate the scale and size of this animal a little bit better. They are so massive in every aspect, not just in the physical height and length, but also the weight and the strength and the coordination that they have. Just looking at him here, he's lying now pretty much asleep, I think. He hasn't really given us even a glance for the last minute or two. Beautiful light on him. And since we're so close, let's just have a close look. I mean, we don't see those beautiful golden eyes staring at us. One of the things I think is interesting for people to know, and this goes for leopard as well, even more so for leopard, but the whiskers on these cats, people often, you see the whiskers, we know what they are, but that... There you go, upside down, look. Look right down the nostrils now. The whiskers are very important on the big cats. That is, by the way, very comfortable. It might not look like it, but if you've got 80 odd pounds of meat in your stomach, that's the way you'd want to be for a little while. Those whiskers play a very important role when they're hunting. We spoke about it earlier. There were various questions about why they choke the animals when they grab them on the neck. And obviously, as I said, partly noise and partly practicality. But the whiskers play an important role in that when they're holding the animal by the throat, those whiskers are touching the skin, touching the animal's neck. And as soon as the heart stops beating, they can feel it through the whiskers. So they actually know when the moment has arrived that the prey is actually dead. Because if you just had to sort of guess it, that could be quite dangerous. If you've got a buffalo by the throat and you're suffocating it and you're choking it and you think, oh, well, it's not moving now, I can let go. The minute you let go, if that buffalo is not dead, it might jump up, it might run away and you've lost your food. More importantly, in that moment, because you're so close to that animal, it might be able to get a horn hooked into your side, or if it's a kudu, for instance, those long horns can act like spears and they can easily hurt or even kill you. Make no mistake, lions, leopards, hyenas, cheetahs, even the other big cats in the rest of the world, tigers, for instance, every so often, I know personally of leopard and lion that have died in this area from warthogs, the same for bushbuck, and certainly from buffalo. So it's crucial to know when the animal has actually died before you let go, and that's what the whiskers are very important for. I'm just looking at the beautiful light in the mane. You can see the glow in that hairy mane of his. Of course, lions or male lions have got that mane. On rare occasions, you do find lionesses with manes. You do find male lions that are maneless. For instance, if you guys, any of you from Chicago, if I remember correctly, the famous lions from Tsavo are in Chicago, and they were maneless. Hello, Paige. Nice to hear from you again. I commented on the lovely name the other day. You're asking, why do male lions have, if I understand the question correctly, black manes? Well, oh, look at that. I love those eyes. The pupils are still very small because it's daylight. As it gets closer to sunset now and the light gets low, those pupils will go nice and big. You get those black pupils. And he's got a little bit of black mane. Where are we now? There in the bottom area of the mane, you can see a little bit of black mane, but he's quite, I would almost say, sort of strawberry blonde. There's a male that we call Blondie. In fact, if you go way through to pitch black manes that you get, for instance, in the Kalahari, in the sort of semi-desert areas, you get these really dark maned lions. But even this pride, the Birmingham Boys 5-male coalition, within that pride, there's quite a bit of variation. And it's the same as with us. but you do get variation between individuals. Well, while he's trying to find another position, let's just see if he does. Something interesting to show you there, but let's just see. I thought he might yawn. No, he's not going to yawn. Look at those. The tent. We'll see you back here shortly.
Look at this. Beautiful. It's a nest, obviously.
Let me hold it for you.
Thank you so much. It belongs to a bird called the white-crowned shrike. Now, there is the white-crowned shrike. Tebs will just show it to you. It's that fellow there. And he's what we call a communal nesting bird. So they live in a flock. It's a monogamous pair of alpha, almost like in a wolf pack, where an alpha pair will breed, and they make this incredible construction out of grass. They chop up pieces of grass, they put finer bits inside, and they wrap the whole thing in bits of spider web. So they go and they collect all sorts of spider web from around the place. They wrap up this neat little nest. They'll lay probably 2 eggs. They'll be incubated by both parents, and then the little chicks will sit side by side until they're literally too big to stay in it, and then they'll eventually walk out onto the branch, fly away, and hopefully live long and fulfilled lives. Now, you've got something else to show us.
We have, but just to say, this is that whole engineering thing, and I think it's absolutely astonishing that, I couldn't build that. I've got an opposable thumb. Humans, we can't build things like that. It's just beautiful. These guys have just got a beak, and they build something and construct it so beautifully. Nature's engineering, it's beautiful stuff.
Marvellous.
Now, we have something rather large, and we want to see if you can guess what this is. So we're going to throw it out there. I'll bring it around. Hashtag Safari Live. The first person to get it right, we'll give them a shout out, hey?
Big shout out.
Big shout out from both of us.
2 shout outs in one.
Watch the core stability here. Here we go. James, help me, please. Come on, help me.
Okay, holding the nest.
What is that? What is that? The question is, what is that? Hashtag Safari Live. Just give a little bit of a scan down here, please, Tebs, and just show everyone. Give them a little bit of a look at it.
So we tell them which is the front end and the back end?
No.
No. Okay. Fair enough.
Nope. What is that? Hashtag Safari Live. We're going to cross back over to that beautiful, beautiful line. Let's see it.
Well, I was thinking this lion's finding a new position, but I think once he sort of found himself relatively upright, he just stayed like that. And interesting that something going on there with Hayden as well. I know he's just given you a key question there. And I'm going to give you the answer. No, I'm just kidding. You can figure that out yourself. It's a very interesting one, by the way, and a very interesting skull as well. We are... I don't really know what I want to say next. We're sitting with the lion. It's amazing. Thank you for being here. And I was actually going to show you one more thing up close. I have a close look at his nose, really close. I wanted to show you earlier, one of the fantastic ways to see lions, or to see when you look at pictures of lions. I always found it very interesting when I was starting to take photographs and got into wildlife photography. Wild lions always have scars, always. Just the way they live. The natural competitiveness of males fighting, of females around carcasses, nails and teeth flaying around different situations. There's always scars on their noses and around the face area. So that's one of the ways you can always recognize a wild lion. Another way that you could recognize at least 2 people by the end of this live safari this afternoon would be from the massive grins on their faces. And we don't know who those 2 people are yet, but remember, at the end of the drive, we've got a fireside chat. We're going to shoot the breeze around the fire and think back to some magic moments. And also, at the end of the fireside chat, we're going to announce the names of those 2 people who are going to be sitting there with big grins on their faces, who have won the safari bingo and a trip to East Africa for the magnificent migration. So don't miss that. It might be you. I wish it was me. And we might go look around a bit, maybe show you somewhere else when you get back from this break. Well, guys, as I was saying there, partly why you caught me there with having nothing to say, which is not typical for me, those of you that know me long enough. He really is not going to be doing too much. He's got a good sleep now. He's got a good bit of shade. He might go for a drink later on. But I would just absolutely love to show you one or two places around this area. So we've got about 4 or 5 minutes for the break. And we're going to take a short drive. You might stay with us. You might go somewhere else. But short drive, I'm going to go show you something close by home. And then we'll come back here in a few minutes again. Well, there we go. That's his plan. I think our plan will work as well. Yeah, the buffalo is still in the same place as well. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Let's go see if we can show you one or two new views. I know VM had a great time there earlier when he saw a new place. It's always nice to see a pretty place that you haven't seen before. And I haven't said so already, but as you know, good friend of mine, VM behind the camera. VM, always nice to be on safari with your friend. Wanted to say mate like Hayden, you know, the Aussie slang is catching up to us or rubbing off. Let's go look around. I'm going to show you a new place. Lovely area. There's lots of big marula trees. This whole sort of section around us. All of them just looking like they're waiting for a leopard to come and lounge on the branches. Where am I going now? This way. Find the road again. Beautiful skies there. Just to show you a little bit of this surrounding as we're moving along, but that's the big clouds we mentioned earlier, and should get a nice sunset because the major clouds have moved past, and with that I'm sure a big sigh of relief by everyone, perhaps a little bit bigger by some than others, but the big rain seems to have given us a break for now. We are further east than we normally go, so for those of you again that know this area well, Cheetah Cut Line we referred to often yesterday on the afternoon drive. We took a nice scenic drive down that Buffalo Dam. That's to our west, so we're further east from that than usual, and it's an area that opens up a little bit. You tend to get a bit more of the habitat, as you can see driving through. Still bushveld, still not sort of big grass plains, but certainly still bushveld, but you've got a bit more open grassland underneath it, and very good grazing, very good grass. So therefore, often the buffalo herds spend a lot of time in. Often with buffalo herds then come the lion prides. So east of where we normally operate, very good lion area. Birmingham's, Rumas, Sticks. And yeah, an area that I've always liked. So it's fantastic to be out here this afternoon. Moving nice and slow to make sure you can stay here nice and steady with it. Just look at this area, it's absolutely stunning. Big marula trees, good grazing underneath. Always look around carefully when you're driving. You know, there's so many other things. I mean, anything else could be here. That's what's so awesome. guys. Everyone else about to jump back on.
So we've left. So we've left Arathusa. We haven't been able to find any sign of that leopard. And what we're doing at the moment is Brian and I are heading to one of our favorite spots on Djuma. And there's an absolutely magnificent sky behind us, and we just want to show you how big and wide the bush is out here and the sky. It's that storm that's brewing to the northwest. And as I said, hopefully not during the show, but afterwards, it's going to come pulsing down and renew the water and the grass. I'm always in two minds about droughts. They are a natural thing where the bush is taking care of itself, so it removes sort of the weak and invalid animals and gives the predators a chance to really boost their populations. So incredibly, and focusing on big cats, since it's Big Cat Week, is that during times of drought, lion and leopard populations can increase by up to 10 or 15%. So that's a huge amount. But I'm just going to swing around here quickly. I'll show you the sky. And look at that. Look at that. And you can actually see the Drakensberg Mountains in the distance. We're in the low veld of South Africa. And that denotes that as soon as you drop down that huge mountain range, one of the longest mountain ranges in Africa, you drop down into the low veld where it's hot and where all the big things live, lions and leopards and elephants. And that storm, as you go across, you'll start seeing there's a bit of rain and how dark it gets and the mountains disappear. And there's an absolute deluge happening to the north there. But we are in a spot where there's been some interesting birds' nests, and we've had a look at them quite a few times here on Big Cat Week. And I want to just check up on the one that I found a couple of days ago. I'm sort of waiting for them to hatch. The problem is it's a ground nesting bird, and what sometimes happens is they get eaten by different predators. I don't see mom, which is not a good sign. And there's the nest, and the eggs are all gone. Too close, 1 second. Just while we have a look at this nest, just a reminder, the winner of Safari Bingo, there we go. So it almost doesn't look like a nest, it's a little scraping in the ground, but there were 3 eggs there yesterday. So something has got them. I don't think they've hatched. We would have seen the female and the little ones out on the short grass plain. It was a Senegal lapwing nest, but unfortunately I think someone snacked them, and that's what happens out here in the bush. But we're going to go across to something of many, many legs on the bushwalk with Scotty. What you may see on it, which is really interesting, are a few tiny little bugs crawling around. Now those are mites, and they've got a very, very special relationship with this millipede, and they keep it clean. Because the millipede lives in a lot of moldy areas where it decomposes, or where it feeds on decomposed which is hard to believe. Imagine having to control all the over to Brent. See you later. So we are now moving through we're going to be announcing the winner of Safari Bingo. So key viewers who's been watching Big Cat Week is going to be zooting across to the Serengeti to watch the migration. I won't lie, I'm a little bit jealous. things we're listening for is dude. Almost
on getting it right. On getting it right.
But that's how it would sit on the animal, or probably even hanging down lower. And this area here, you can, if you come in close, Tebs, on that, you'll start to see the fibrous sort of structure of that compared to the rest of bone. And this is where the keratin would actually grow from or come out of. And you know what science has found? There's another horn that here, this is the anterior horn, this is called the posterior horn. And there's, science has found that there's that when they've scanned them, they've actually found calcium, like matted hair. It's a very, very complex structure, different from a horn itself. Horns on our antelope have a bony structure inside and a keratin sheath. This is solid keratin with calcium melanin deposits found right throughout on a yearly growth rate, and that's there to strengthen them. So yep, rhino skull, well fantastic work.
And Erwin, you guessed that it was, you said it's fallen off because it's keratin. I suppose it's actually fallen off. It'll be somewhere out here in the bush lying, probably in a hole.
And you know what? Lots of work around the world being done on rhino conservation. If you want to know more information about that, go and check it out on things like Nat.Geo Wild and the like. Right, I think we're going to go and have a look at our area from the sky here. Are we?
We are. And that's going to be it from us in the tent this evening.
We're live on drone now, folks. We're going to say goodbye to you from our wonderful little skullduggery, our little skull lab, our skull hut. We've been called all types of things. It's been an absolute pleasure working with James in here, and we've got a view from the air. You're going over our wonderful fire at the moment, looking at that magnificent sunset, and we're going to cross back to the line. We'll see you at the fireside chat very, very shortly.
Fireside, as I had mentioned to you there, we actually tried to go for a drive, but I did mention at the beginning of this drive that we point of view. Obviously, as you can imagine, for us to have you live here in Africa with us at this moment as we're talking to each other, there's one or two little things in between happening that can be quite a challenge out in any environment, never mind in the wilderness of southern Africa. One of the things about lion that's really large and really impressive, other than their teeth and their bellies in this case and their manes, is their paws. Now, I'm going to try and give an example just now, but it's the way I always mention or measure or show it to people. Now, I've been lucky enough over the years to have been part of very exciting programs and things happening in game reserves. And one of the things I've been on many, I almost want to say missions, maybe the wrong word, but catching lions when they sometimes need to put collars on for research or maybe to relocate to other reserves. And what I always try to show people is when you get really up close to a lion is, well, the tongue is interesting, how nails. Oh, look at him. He's rolling over. There's a lot of action. So those paws, if you take the relaxed paw, no nails out, no sort of stretch out, and you put that paw next to my hand, I've got about an average size hand for a human male. That paw would be a little bit bigger than my hand, so it would be about that size. But to put that into perspective, if you put that next to your face, and that's what I like to do always, so if that lion put his paw next to my face, it would be the same size as my head. If he was to open the foot, so if he almost 2/3 around my head if you grab me like that. So that He's okay by himself. Short on. So Frank. An elephant, maybe a herd of buffalo, but he'll just run away from them. But he does have brothers, and he does have cousins that are part of his sort of, you call it a coalition, or part of his team, and they work together. Look at that belly, full belly. So he would often work with him, and when it comes to defending his area, this place that is his home, against other lions, and work with those other males. So 5 of them working together. But on his own, he's 100% fine, he's 100% safe, and as we can see, he's good question as well, Ryan. This is one of the other things that we would look at if you could get super close to a lion, is the tuft on that tail. The paw or the roughness of the tongue. Very interesting if you look at a lion's bone of the tailbones is sharp, and it feels literally like a claw. There's been various sort of hypotheses around it. But Ryan, you were just asking about the long hair on the tail. What's the reason for it? No. If you think of the easiest example for you guys from North America would be the white-tailed deer. You get very specific markings on the tails of animals. The same with leopard, they've got that white flash on the tail tip. And you can see this in many animals out here, impala and kudu and so forth as well. I often compare it to the tail lights on a car. Now, if you didn't have the lights at the back of the car telling you when it's stopping or moving, you would be surprised by it. And these tufts on the tails of these animals help for them to be visible to others in the group. So if this lion is busy hunting, moving through the bush, and the tail starts twitching to show excitement, other lions in the group can immediately see that. The same with leopard. A female leopard moving around with her cubs, they can twitch the tail, and the cub can immediately see mum is excited. Or the cutest character for this whole Big Cat Week, and it's not quite cat, it's not quite dog, but it's a very, by far, one of the cutest animals we've seen in a long time. Enjoy it with Brent. He's going to show you something awesome.
So perfect timing. As we arrived at the den, the mother arrived and started giving these low oohs. And out came the latest member of the hyena clan. And getting a good cleaning from mom, but very excited. Probably spent the whole hot day deep in the den where it's cool. Mom would have been sleeping out in the bush. And so she's made her way back to the little one. And really difficult to tell at this age whether it's male or female. Although the fact that there is only one sort of lends to the likelihood it is possibly a female. So hyenas practice something called Cain and Abel syndrome, or siblicide. So that little hyena could have possibly killed her sister, if it is a she, within minutes of birth using their milk teeth. And the reason for this is that if there were 2 females in a matriarchal society, they would have fought for the exact same social position in the clan. All feeding. You can see some very interesting greeting behavior about to happen. Oh, foot in the face. Still hasn't got quite control over its movements yet, and that the bigger one just stepping on it. Female's tolerating the sub-adult at the moment. There we go. I was wondering when that was going to happen. And she tolerated for quite a bit. There we go. Now that's what you call properly scolded by a mother hyena, trying to look innocent against the bush now. So I was wondering that was going to happen. I thought that sub-adult was pushing its luck a little bit with the little one starting to feed. And now the little one's begging. Oh, thirsty, thirsty, thirsty. And hyenas actually lactate for much longer than other mammals, and the hyena cubs will suckle to well over a year old, and they're mostly reliant on mother's milk for that time, and they will eat a little bit of meat and nut, but generally they get their most sustenance from mom. I'm not sure he wants to drink or play. Some vicious suckling happening there. And you can see the very distinct scar on the left rump of the mom, and that's how we identify her as the mother of this little cub. So we're about to jump off to an ad break, but we'll be right here at the den when you get back. So this is amazing, having this den so active at the moment. And strangely enough, this is the first time during Big Cat Week that I've been here. I have been trying to track lions and leopards, but they have been evading me slightly. Did manage to find Karula once. Oh, look at that. Very thirsty. You can almost hear the suckling from here. That. There we go, you can hear that noise, it's incredible. That's the little guy whining about not getting enough milk or mom not making her teeth readily available. Now, from our camp, this was probably only about 500 meters as the crow flies. It's getting...
Starts coming down. Well, sorry. I'm just having a laugh because, you guys, you know, it's such a special thing to be doing this. Right at this moment, what I'm doing, I wouldn't do anything else in the world than this. I'm sitting with one of my favorite animals in the world, a big lion. I'm sitting with my favorite guest in the world, all of you guys. And I'm doing the best thing in the world, driving a 4x4, looking for wildlife. I always said I love doing that. So I was going to start by saying, well, the lion is still sleeping, but that's quite obvious. He's been doing it most of the afternoon. This is what lions do really well. When they've been eating, they sleep. As I said earlier, eat, sleep, digest, repeat. Eat, sleep, and they do this for a day or two or three. Yeah, not much else to say about him for now, other than that I was looking at him now, and I do find him almost, I wouldn't call a lion comical. I don't think I'll ever call a lion comical, except perhaps if you see a lion after heavy rain, when they've been rained on and they're soaking wet, then they can be quite funny. But that belly of his looks like it's getting bigger and bigger for me this afternoon, but maybe it's just because we've been sitting with him for quite a while. I must say that we're now into that sort of special time of the day for me. There are two parts of the day anywhere in the world, but especially on safari, that I particularly love, and that is early morning, just after sunrise. In fact, just before sunrise, actually, until just after that sort of hour or so. And in the hour that we are sitting in now, normally referred to as golden hour, but we have some clouds still covering some of the horizon. So we've been having golden hour and then sort of grey hour. But this time before evening, before the night sets on, I love this. If you look there towards the sky, not a particularly sort of breathtaking sunset tonight, but lots of clouds still around, and the trees, and the wind is starting to get a little bit cooler. You can hear the bird calls, and I just love this time of the day. The smells get better, the temperature gets nicer, and of course also this is when more and more animals start to get active. They start to get ready for their day or for their night or for whatever they might be up to. That is to say, most animals, other than this guy, he's just going to be doing this. We're going to sit here a little bit more. I was hoping for him to go drink. I don't think that's going to happen too soon. I was hoping for him to roar. That might still happen. And I was hoping for him to maybe go hunting. I don't think that's going to happen today. But let's have a look at him up close again. Cody, you're asking, what's the biggest lion I've ever seen? You know what, all really the bigger animals, I'm not talking about lion, elephant, rhino, buffalo, those kind of, you know, the big guys, even leopard, they tend to get bigger the closer they get to you. This distance, and make no mistake, we're close to this line. We're sitting probably about 8 feet away from him. In South Africa for sort of making a light joke, facetiously if you want, is that once you get their paws are, how heavy they are, how strong those forearms are, how big the mane is, you really have to be 250 kilograms. That's 540, 550 pounds. I would say probably 50 or 60 pounds heavier than this guy perhaps. But to be fair, at this moment, with a belly like that full of buffalo, I would actually love to know what this lion weighs at the moment. I want to just move a little bit. As I said, I don't think even when I'm moving, he's barely opening his eyes. It's been a safari. This has been a spectacular afternoon sitting with a lion, all the other things you've seen. There's the carcass. Now this could attract, it still could attract possibly hyena. As I was saying, it's getting cooler now. We're approaching evening. Hyenas get active, leopard get active, and it could still attract those. But just from what we've done here, what the wind has done, what the sounds have done, no vultures, no things to indicate to hyena, for instance, that there could be a carcass like this lying around. My feeling here is that this lion is going to be doing pretty much what he's doing around. And I've asked this question before, and for those of you that know it, please help me with this answer. Why are lions called lions? In other words, why do you call that a lion? It's a very simple answer. It's because they are lying around so often. They can spend 18 or 20 hours a day sleeping. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to let sleeping lions lie, and we want to head over towards the fireside chat, because it's going to be fun around the fire. James, as you know, is a very funny guy, very bright guy as well. And we're going to have a nice chat around the fire, share some of the highlights of this week with you, and have a look around. At the same time, that gives me about a 15-20 minute drive. We're quite far away, and who knows, maybe we find a leopard on the way. We would still like to find another big cat for Big Cat Week. So let's see what we find on the way, but for now, enjoy the other place. I think you're going to Brent, I'm not sure, and I will see you around the fire in a bit, or perhaps with a little surprise leopard on the way.
And chased what I think we can probably consider the terrible teens. There's 3 of them now. There was only one when we were first there. There's the other one. She was grooming the little one, and the terrible teens decided to, there's another one just behind her, to approach. And the little guy ran straight back down the hole. Oh, there, just your head popping up. Just saw an ear. There we go. So I think the terrible teens just want to play, but mom's too much with the boisterous. Oh, hopped over, saw off one. Pasting to the absolute end against other hyenas. one of the amazing things about being able to spend so much time in this den is we've seen such interesting behavior. It's like having a little insert into the private world of hyenas. They're incredibly difficult to follow away from the den. Oh, look at that. Hi, Ma. Once more bath time. Is it a little male or female? I'm thinking, leaning towards female at the moment. We'll only be able to tell when they're a bit bigger. But as you can see, completely black, unlike the rest of them. They're all spotted, hence the name spotted hyena. And Ida is wondering, when will these hyenas get their spots down the hole? So you'll probably start getting the spots at around sort of 2 months, and will be fully spotted by about 4 months. Still hasn't quite got full control over its body yet. Still quite clumsy. And they become incredibly brave from this age, and they'll start actually, and during this big cat week, they've started coming closer and closer to the vehicle. So, obviously, life out in the bush is quite tough, and the hyenas battle with other hyenas and lions. It's injured or is unable to nurse the little one. Will one of the other hyenas adopt it? Ravi, unfortunately, not. I'm not saying it's impossible, because the one thing you learn when you spend time in the bush is that the impossible is possible. We wrote the books. The animals didn't read them, so anything can happen. Oh, look at this. Mom might want to come lie down here where it's a bit cooler, closer to us. And let's see the little one. Still not quite brave enough with the other terrible teens coming through. And let's see what happens if the terrible teen decides to take a chance to get close to the little one. Oh, here he comes. Here we go. Oh. A nip to the bottom to see off the terrible team. But Ravi, sorry, back to your question. So, as generally, in most cases with hyenas, they do not sort of have shared nursing like lions, so they won't. And unfortunately, that is sort of a... Oh, here we go. Next nip. It is more than likely that that cub would die. So the fact that... Listen to that. They're almost begging and whining for mom. It's really high-pitched sort of tittering whining. Well, looking at the belly earlier, I didn't think he could fit any more, or she could fit any more milk there, but it looks like it's going to try. So, sorry, Ravi, they just keep moving, so I don't quite get to your question. So, unfortunately, it would normally mean the end for that cub. But as I say, stranger things have happened, and you never know what might happen out in the bush. And that is one of the fantastic things, as I was saying, about being able to spend so much time with these animals. You get to see behavior that you don't see very often. And hyenas have got incredibly complex social structures. It is the only truly matriarchal animal in the African bush. And I know a lot of the ladies will be happy to hear that. The females dominate the males completely. Now, physically stronger, bigger. and they're quite often referred to as the sisterhood. So the lowest ranking female is higher ranking than the highest ranking male. Well, looks like it's too tired to cause mischief now. That shouldn't last too long. So we quite often see these particular hyenas around the den, obviously the mom because she's nursing, and the 3 sub-adults. These 3 will go out foraging with the adults. And I would guess there's probably between 15 and 20 individual hyena in this clan at the moment. I think the most I've ever seen together at this particular den is about 12. But what happens is hyenas will scavenge independently of each other or hunt. And if they find anything small, they won't share it with the other clan members. And they even cache food. It's incredible. They will put it in water so other hyenas can't smell it if they're too full to eat anymore. And they will sometimes drag carcasses back to the den. But the other hyenas will quite often just rest under a bush wherever they might have stopped in the morning after their evening of foraging. But you'll watch, their ears are always like hers on the move, and she's very, very attentive to what's going around. So if they happen to hear the sort of distress calls of a leopard catching an impala, they would disappear in that direction, and the little guy would go down into the safety of the den. And quite often they get quite a bad rap, but they are, for me, definitely one of the more interesting animals to watch, and specifically at a den, because there's almost always some activity going on, even if it's suckling or playing. So, and we're going to leave the hyenas to do their... We've got a question from one of our favorite viewers, Gracie, who's age 8. We're just going to have one last look and say goodbye. Thirsty little guy, and we're going to make our way off to fireside chat now. And Gracie wants to know, why is the mom not letting the little teenagers play with? So that's why the mom is trying to keep them away from it. Do in the African bush is look at wild animals, and that's what we do on a daily basis. And I'm very privileged to be able to do that. And this, one of the second most favorite things is to sit around a fire with a bunch of my friends and talk about animals in the bush. So I get to do both today, and isn't that wonderful? And don't forget, we do go out on these safaris every day, and you can catch that on our website, WildSafariLive.com. And also I know all the many thousands of bingo players are going to be waiting to hear who is the winner of Safari to the Serengeti. So while we maneuver back towards the fire, Simon, who's in Grayson, said, Peter said, oh, he loves lions. I was wondering, do I have any, and it sort of just echoes through the bush, a Verreaux's eagle owl, or giant eagle owl, is another one of my favorite calls in the bush. It's this wonderful, deep, and it almost always happens. Many wonderful calls, a lot of the different birds, the francolins, the African fish eagle. But I'd say probably lion and hyena out of the mammal species, and also all the various noises elephants make. It's just so much. Yeah, it's difficult to choose, but if I had that little tiny hope that a leopard's going to pop out in front of us. You never know what's around the next corner, literally, to quote Hayden. And I'm hoping, while we're doing the fireside chat, we might get a visitor or two. The sun's setting off to the west. It has been a spectacular day out here in the African bush. Oh, hello, and you never know what's around the next corner. There's a herd of wildebeest, wildly beasts, and it looks like they are going to join us at the fireside chat. They're heading directly towards that area. They like sleeping out in that open area. It gives them a good area of protection from predators. They're able to see distance around them.